Hey friends, this is Kyle Webster from Adobe, and today we're going to look at color dynamics, a powerful painting and drawing feature in Photoshop. Let's check it out. One of the easiest ways to explain how color dynamics work is to just show you a brush that already has it baked in. In the Mega Pack in Kyle's Paint Box, there's a brush called Creamy Variation. I've selected that brush. When I make some strokes with the brush, you'll notice that every time I make a new stroke, it looks like there is paint overlaying the paint that's already on the canvas. This is being achieved because color dynamics are activated. If I go to my brush settings, you'll see that the hue jitter is set to 4%, saturation jitter at 1, and brightness at 3. These are the sliders that you can play around with to give more variation to every brush stroke. So if I go to the hue jitter and I bump that up to about 10%, and I take the brightness jitter and bump that up to about 10%, you're going to notice a more extreme example of the same effect. Another thing you can do with color dynamics is you can turn apply per tip off. You'll notice this little box here, and there's no longer a check mark in there. Once I've done that, every time I make a stroke, it's going to change the values associated with my hue, saturation, and brightness jitter. As long as my stylus is making contact and I'm painting, I'm going to keep one consistent set of values going. When I lift it up and I start painting again, it's going to be different, and so on and so on. So why would this be useful? Well, let's say for example you wanted to quickly paint some grass. Every time I paint a blade of grass, I'm going to get a different color, but nothing so different that it's not going to feel like it's part of that family, right? So this is a really fun, fast way to paint some grass. Another very cool thing about color dynamics is the ability to paint with two colors at once. I can turn the control on for the foreground and background jitter, and I'm going to select pen pressure as the means of controlling this. If I use heavy pressure, the foreground color is the dominant color. If I use light pressure, the background color is the dominant color, which is great because if I use medium pressure, I can blend the two colors. And Photoshop does a really fantastic job of this. So you can get these nice painterly blends with a single brush and two different colors. One of the cool things about color dynamics is you can use them with any brush, except for mixer brushes. So for example, in my ink box I have the Spatter Punk brush. Now if I use this brush, it's going to use the foreground color and make some spatter, and that's fine. But what if I want to add some quick variety to the color in that spatter? I'll go to my brush settings and select color dynamics. I'm going to turn on pen pressure to control the foreground and background color jitter. I've got the hue jitter set to 6, which I'm going to increase to 10. And now when I use the spatter, it's going to do a spatter that has red and yellow and anything in between. And that's really cool. So I've got my watercolor brush set open here, and I've selected the Color Magic 2K17 brush. And in the brush settings, you'll see that color dynamics are turned on. We have pen pressure controlling the foreground and background jitter. And I'm trying to paint a sort of lavender color, so I have a red in the foreground and a blue in the background. And what's great is, as I paint with medium pressure, I can get a blend of the two colors. And this wash that appears really has that effect of two different colors working wet into wet on the page. Now if I want to use really heavy pressure, I can make that red the dominant color. But then underneath here, I can just go to a softer purpley blue kind of color. So to be able to make these kinds of blends would not be possible without color dynamics, because you're able to do them in a single stroke while you vary the pressure. So for all of you watercolor enthusiasts who want to work digitally, this is a really neat way to go. So now you've seen some really useful ways you can use color dynamics in your art, and the effects are very different. So give it a try, and now it's time for you to make something awesome, so I gotta sign off. Thanks for watching.